Hello and welcome to our vodcast. My name is Hector Murieta and I'm the proud principal of Sierra High School in the San Bernardino City Unified School District. And right now I am our host of our vodcast, and our vision is that one day students will be hosting this. But right now I am your host. And with me today we have Mr. Reynaldo Solorzano, a teacher here at Sierra High School. And my pleasure to introduce him to all of you. He's one of our teachers here. He teaches math at Sierra High School. And he has been at Sierra now for, this is year 2?
Yeah, this is year 2.
This is year 2. And he's already established himself among the staff and students as a teacher leader. And today we're going to be discussing together an assessment method that we think is alternative, it's authentic, and it gives students agency to demonstrate their learning. However, before we get into that assessment method, I want to give Mr. Solorzano an opportunity to introduce himself to our viewers and our listeners.
Yeah, so like Ms. Murieta said, my name is Reynaldo Solorzano. Originally, I'm from Lake Elsinore, which is about like an hour away from here. I went to school there since kindergarten all the way through high school. So I really am from Lake Elsinore. And then, after high school, I wanted to go to college, and La Sierra University was one of the schools that reached out for a basketball scholarship, and so I ended up going there, majoring in mathematics. Also, playing sports, as I mentioned, I got a scholarship for all 4 years, which was helping me with my tuition. I was able to get inducted into the Riverside Sports Hall of Fame there. Also broke a few records while playing. It was a very good school. I was happy that I went there. I got to learn a lot. Unfortunately, they didn't have a credential program there. So I ended up going to Cal State San Bernardino. I took like 1 year in between to kind of, boost up my GPA a little bit and just kind of get financially situated. But during my time there, during the first year, that's when I met you. That's when I was subbing around the district and just kind of getting different experience, like whether it's like middle school, high school, just to kind of see what I liked, what schools I possibly would have been like to work at. So one day, I think it was the second time or third time I came here, you walked into a classroom that I was subbing for, and we just had a conversation. You were just kind of getting to know me a little bit, and I was asking you a few questions about yourself too. But yeah, then ever since then, we've kind of seen each other at school when I've kind of been here. And then one day, you gave me a call. You called me and you said, "Hey, Mr. Solorzano, would you like to do your student teaching here?" And I said yes. I liked it here. I liked your positivity and your energy when you approached me, and how welcoming everyone here was at the school. And I've been here ever since.
That's right. I remember that. And for our listeners and our viewers, or rather for our listeners that can't see you, yeah, it's hard not to notice you. You're a very tall guy. So even for our viewers, you're sitting down, so maybe they can't tell. But yeah, you definitely stood out. But and also what was memorable to me, you probably remember this, when you joined us in our staff student basketball game. Yeah. And I saw you dunk. I was like, wow. Yeah, we need to get this guy over here. But no, yeah, right away, like you said, I would go into your classroom, and we had an opening, and we thought this would be perfect. So, thankfully here we are.
I know, we are.
And you're completing year 2, right?
Yes, I'm completing year 2.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's fast. It goes by fast.
It sure has. It sure has. But, okay, well, and thanks again for your willingness to be here and share with our viewers and our listeners. And just a little bit of background for everybody. As I approached Mr. Solorzano one day, we were talking out in the quad, and we got to talking about assessments. And I shared with you a form of assessing students that I used in my classroom years ago. I was also a math teacher, so you and I share that. And in talking, you seemed to take an interest in what I was sharing with you. And, we got to talking a little bit more, and I explained it to you, and it looks like you tried it out. And we'll get to that. You'll be able to share with our listeners and our viewers what we did. But for all of you listening and watching, we'll provide a description of what this assessment method is. It doesn't really have a name, not that I'm aware of. But basically, it's this. And I'm going to read here because I want to make sure I get it right. So it involves writing questions or prompts, and in this case, because it's a math class, writing problems in a way that authentically reflects the grade or mark that the student will receive. Then when the students take the assessment, the students, they select the questions that they could answer at the grade or the mark that they feel or that they know demonstrates their level of learning that they're comfortable with. So they don't answer all of the questions on the exam. They answer only the ones at the level in which they could demonstrate their learning. So for example, a typical math assessment may have 20 questions. Okay, and most typical math tests or assessments, the students take all 20, they answer all 20, and their grade or their mark is based on the percentage they got correct. But in the type of assessment we'll be discussing today, is it could still be a 20 question or problem assessment. However, those questions or problems, they're split up, so to speak, into different levels. And we just called it, D level because of the grade or a credit level, C, B level, and A level. With D being, showing minimal mastery, showing mastery, but at a minimal level. And then moving all the way up to a level A, which is, showing very high level of mastery. So it's still 20 questions, but students only take, or answer rather, 5 at the level in which they feel they could, demonstrate their learning. And then additionally, once they answer those 5 problems or questions, they can now attempt some of the other ones if they want, without any fear of failure or getting them wrong. Because even if they get them wrong, it's okay because they've already answered these other 5 correctly, and they in a sense they lock in that grade. So I wanted to ask you, Mr. Lewis, did I cover it or did I leave anything out? I just want to make sure it's clear to our viewers.
No, I think that's how it works. Pretty clear. I think the emphasis is like the opportunity that you have to get the grade or get the mark that you want to receive.
Right. Very good. And for our visual learners, what we'll do is we'll actually show, what exactly one may look like. All right. So what I'm hoping you could do, Mr. Solorzano, is just share with our viewers and our listeners, and I'll share my experiences as well. But I've been doing this a while, and you're fairly new to the profession. So just sharing with our viewers and listeners your experience.
So I remember at first when you were just explaining it to me, I thought, okay, it seems pretty simple. Just create different sets of problems, and that's it.
Right.
But the more I really thought about it, I really had to be purposeful with the questions that I had to put on a certain page. I really had to think about, okay, is this an A question, or could it be a B question? Could it be a C question? So I found myself asking a lot of questions, and that's where you really have to understand your content as well as the standards. Hey, what is the standard asking for? What should students be able to demonstrate, or what level of mastery? And so what I noticed is it goes into something that we talk about a lot in my credential program, is the different levels, the depth of knowledge, the DOK questions.
Right.
And I found that the level A questions, or sometimes I refer to them in my classroom, level 4 questions, they're more of that 4th level, more of analyzing, critiquing, and the level 1 questions, or the D questions that we were talking about, that mark. It's more of just solve, right? And so it kind of gradually increases, and it requires more thinking to get to that level A. For example, some of my level A questions are more of spotting the mistake and explaining why you think that is that mistake. So it's really a gradual process, and like I said, it really just gets you to think and be purposeful in the questions that you put in on the assessment.
Yes, thank you. And I remember that as well. I remember when I embarked on that same thing. It really, as a teacher, it got you, or got me. It gets one thinking about, the questions we're writing, and because it wasn't hard. I mean, there's a lot of test generators, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I need a 20 question test. Yeah, it spits them out, and
Yeah.
but they're all different levels.
Mm-hmm.
And a student may get 90% of them right, but what if all 90% are at a very basic level,
Yeah.
level 1 or level 2, and then you get into grade inflation and all that, and we'll get to that. But thank you for that. Yeah,
Sure.
because I remember sharing that experience as well. So from a student standpoint, from your students,
Yeah.
what would you hear from them when you first pitched the idea to them, or you told them, I don't know how you, maybe you
Yeah.
could describe how you told them, hey guys, we're gonna take this test, but look, you're gonna notice something different. Describe that. How
Yeah.
did that go?
So when I was explaining the assessment, there's just like a moment of silence. Everyone was like, what'd you say? It's like we could do one page, and if we get this page right, that's the grade that we'll receive, and like we don't have to do the rest if we don't want to. It's almost like they didn't believe me. It's like, yes, it's okay. Like just this is how it works, and you can trust me. And so, because they're so used to, like you said, taking that, who knows how many questions
Yeah.
some teachers give now, more than
Mhm.
20. And they have to do every single question. And the fact that sometimes they can't even finish the test is like very stressful for them. So for you to tell them, hey, if you really want, you can only just do this page. And it's like, wait, really? And then, so it's like a very comforting feeling for them. And I haven't gotten any negative feedback. Like, oh, I don't like this style of testing or assessment. Everyone, every one of my students has liked it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the feedback that I've received is I like how I can like try and like you said, like you use the word like lock in. I like how I can lock in my grade, but also have like the confidence to try the next one.
That's right.
It's not going to hurt my grade, and that also they were having trouble believing me. Like, oh, if I do this, it's going to hurt my grade. It's like they have this fear, like, oh, this is going to hurt me if I do it. But it's like, no, it's not going to hurt you. Just give it a try.
That's right.
So that's kind of what I found with my students.
Yeah, thank you. And same thing. I remember students telling me, like you said, yeah, they would pause it. I go, Mr. M, hold on. Are you telling me that I don't have to do all 20? I select the 5 that I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I said, yeah. Pick the 5 where you can answer, where
Yeah.
you feel, you've learned it and you could answer these 5. And yeah, it took a while at first, but like you said, and I'm glad you used the word trust. They had to trust that.
Yeah.
That's we really mean that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, and it kind of gets into the findings. I was hoping we could share with our viewers and listeners. Yeah, what are we finding with this form of assessment is, and kind of like you alluded to. Yeah, the trust increased, and their fear of trying. I know it eliminated the fear.
Yeah.
Students, I mean, math is kind of like a fearful subject anyways. A lot of people go into it like, oh, I'm not good at math, or they don't like math or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It took it away because they knew, okay, I'm going to lock in, in this particular topic, I felt, at this level, I'm
Yeah.
going to lock in that grade, but I'm going to try these additional ones. Because I know in my class, and I don't know if you do it in yours, but I know in mine, I would tell them, look, okay, let's say you're at a level 2 this time. You feel at a level 2. Great. Complete those. And if you want to try a level 3, and let's say you get some of those right, your grade now will be 2.3
Yeah.
or 2.5 instead of just like a 2. Almost like extra,
Yeah.
Oh, and that really boosted, their confidence. And like you
Yeah.
said, just took away that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I think the day before you also provide them with some sort of like review or study guide. And even that day provides opportunity to almost like a self-assessment
Yeah.
where they look, okay, like where am I at? Am I at like a B, or like am I like an A? And if I'm at a B and I want to get an A, okay, I better ask Mr. Murieta, like help me on these 4. So when it comes to the assessment tomorrow, I can at least give them a try or know
Right.
what I'm trying to solve. So
Yeah.
it all goes back with just giving them an opportunity to see like where they're at and hey, let me try to reach that next level if I
Right.
can.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, are you finding or have you found that um, your grades, like just overall, have they improved or have your no credit rates? Because here at Sierra High School, for our listeners and viewers, we don't give F's at Sierra. We give, if a student doesn't pass a class, they get no credit. So have you found, has there been an improvement in completion of of your grades or
Yeah, I would say there has been an increase. I would say I don't have a lot of students that just do that like D portion
the
or
bare
like that
minimum?
that would be like a CR. I feel like a
Right. Yeah. The
credit.
credit. Right.
I don't have a lot of students that stop there,
Good.
right? They
Yeah.
they go for like the next one.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's good, right? You
Right.
want them to at least try the other ones. A lot of them, some of them are not even happy with just doing one page.
Right.
They're like, oh, I wanna do the rest. Like I'm just
Right.
gonna do the rest just in case. But it's a positive feeling. It's like,
Right.
it sucks, but I want to do the rest. It's like, no, I want to do the rest.
Right.
So it just like it really motivates them
Yeah.
to just work on it and see what they can do,
And try.
and just try. But
Right.
yeah, I've seen an increase in grades. I've seen an increase just in that positivity around the assessment. They're not. Like we have to take this long assessment.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
no, it's like it's my time to
Right.
show you what I know, and
That's right.
yeah, we're gonna get through it.
Yeah, I found the same thing that I guess failure rates are pretty high in math classes, just everywhere. We're
Hmm.
not saying anything new, and mine weren't super high, but I just wasn't comfortable with it. And I remember when I went to this assessment system, it 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 almost it practically eliminated for me in my class. F's in that school where I worked at that time. Yeah, we had F's. I mean, really, the only ones that wouldn't pass are the ones that just flat out either
Yeah.
didn't show up or, for whatever reason, just weren't around. But yeah, it almost eliminated them because, again, like you said, they would at least try, even if it was the minimal mastery ones, like a
Hmm.
level one, but they would at least try. And so I saw the same thing. I saw that the failure rates plummeted
Yeah.
and the passing rates completely. And what I would include for our listeners is that it almost did away with, almost or entirely did away with grade inflation because an A was an A.
Yeah.
They weren't
Yeah,
easy.
I know.
They were not easy problems.
Hmm.
A B was a B, a C was a C, and so on and so forth. So even though most, if not all, students were passing, they weren't just given. It was they earned it.
Hmm.
They earned the grade that they got because the questions reflected that learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was transformational in my class. So having said all of that, and especially being a new teacher, so if for teachers that are listening or watching and they want to embark on this, what 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 process would you tell them would they follow? To set
Hmm.
up these assessments. Describe that. What process did you go
Yeah.
through to set these up or to develop these assessments?
Okay. So, what I usually do is, again, you're just gonna be familiar with your content, right? You gotta know what students should be demonstrating, right? Because that should be the goal. Like, I want my students to demonstrate this, and how do I get them to demonstrate that?
Hmm.
So, I usually start with the most difficult questions first, and then I work backwards.
Okay.
This way, I mean, and you can start from the beginning to the end. It
Sure.
really doesn't matter, but it kind of just helps me kind of figure out, okay, if this is the hardest one, if we were to like backtrack, what would students need to be able to do this question,
Right.
and what would students need to do this question? So it kind of just helped me kind of like backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think for me, when I'm creating the assessment, is just it's gotta make sense, right? It's gotta like flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some of the assessments have not been successful, as you know, because it's like my first time,
Sure.
and some of them have been very successful. And I hear from the students because they can see, oh, like I wasn't able to go to the next level, and they'll be like, oh yeah, because I think I missed a few days, and like so it makes sense. Like you can't move on if you're not doing the classwork and you're not here. So that's good. That tells me that I created the assessment in a way that there's like some order and
Right.
structure, and that's how math should be, right?
Right.
Everything kind of
Sure.
builds on, and the fact that some students are kind of recognizing that on the assessment, hey, like, I can't do this because I don't know how to do this.
Right.
So like I can't really get to this next level, but at least they're like I kind of mentioned like self-assessing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, like what do I need? What do I
Right.
need to know?
Right.
Um, so yeah, so that's kind of the advice that I would give the listeners and the viewers. Just how I start from the most difficult all the way back, and just kind of knowing exactly what you want your students to
Right.
demonstrate.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So knowing your standards, your
Hmm.
content, which we need to know that
Yeah.
anyways, and based on what the standard asks for, the skills in that
Yeah. The
standard,
skills.
you work
Hmm.
off of that, and then you determine that level of mastery. Yeah. What's
Hmm.
interesting is I actually approached mine the other way, and I don't think I ever shared this with
No, we
you.
didn't. We didn't.
Yeah. What the you know what I remember when I embarked on this, I did those traditional type of assessment, 20
Mm.
questions, all different types. And I remember I started by writing to the right of the question A or B or C
Mm.
or D. So it was still a traditional type of test, but I would indicate to the right, what level
Oh
it was in.
yeah.
And I did that a couple times and it just seemed messy. And then
Mm.
that's when I said, well, I'm just going to group them. So then that's when I
Oh
did,
yeah,
all the
yeah.
D's and all the C's and so on and so forth. So, but I would, unlike you, I would start with the real basic ones
Mm.
and then work the way up.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
so I mean, that just shows, for our listeners and viewers that, it doesn't really matter if you want to start with the,
Mm.
the higher level ones and work your way back, or lower level ones and work your way up. The point is being very intentional,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Intentional about the questions. And I think you might have mentioned it earlier. That's very labor intensive at first, huh?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, because you really have to think about the questions
Mhm.
and what you're asking them to demonstrate.
Yeah, but and
Yeah.
that's a good thing though, because like you said, when I was first making like my very first
Yeah.
assessment, it was almost like the questions were not random, but there was no like it didn't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And this way, this type of assessment, it really just makes sense. Like
Right.
you have to be purposeful and you have to think about it. And I care about what I want my students to
Right.
know. So this assessment that I created really shows like the effort that I put in and like the
Mhm.
care that I care about what students need to know. And
Right.
so it's really like, I don't know, like kind of personal, right?
Right.
You make it personal and you put a good amount of effort in it. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So before we close, any last minute, like just I don't know, like suggestions or tips to our viewers and listeners, maybe any teachers out there that are curious and they're gonna embark, like just like I don't know, like if you said, okay, just get ready for this or this, what would you send them off with? You know?
Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Something that I told myself or vowed to myself as a new teacher was to never get too comfortable. And I don't want to get complacent in my teaching strategies, and so that's kind of what sparked our conversation. Was like, hey,
Right.
what kind of assessments did you give your students?
Right.
And I'm happy that I asked you
Right.
because I don't know if I'll ever go back.
Yeah.
Like I really don't think I'll ever go back. But so just that, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like your first few years of teaching, like, just go for it. Like, what do you have to lose?
Right.
You're new, you're learning, and I always thought that I was gonna be a certain kind of teacher, and if I were to look back now, I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's
I'm still
right.
trying to figure that out.
Good.
And I think that's the beauty of teaching is just you're trying to learn just as much as students are.
That's right.
Mhm.
Well, look, I'm like 20 plus years in and I'm still trying to figure it out. No, I mean, you never stop learning, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Solorzano. I would also suggest to our listeners and our viewers that, yeah, if you want to embark in this type of assessment, yeah, just get ready. You're going to invest time up front, developing good questions or in the case of a math class, problems, really intentional, and just kind of getting ready to get that feedback from your students. And like you said it, maybe the first assessment,
Yeah.
you may get some feedback from the kids that tells you, oh, okay, I needed to write them this way. It's okay. You go back, rewrite, but then it gets to the point where you get good at writing the questions, and then, yeah, your assessments are really solid, and more importantly, it really gives the students that agency to demonstrate their learning. But well, I want to thank you, Mr. Solorzano,
Yeah, thank you for having me.
first of all, for the work you do at Sierra High School. Like I said, you've established yourself already in a short time as a teacher leader. Students, remember, I get to meet with them in many different capacities, and they always cite your class as one that, I like that class, or I like him, and that's their way of saying that they're feeling supported.
Yeah.
They say you walk around and that you help them, and that's very important to them. So I want to thank you for that, and for taking that chance. I do remember that day. I was outside in the quad, and we just struck up a conversation, and here we are, hopefully helping others learn this method, and hopefully it could help them in their classrooms.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And for our viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in our next episode of our podcast. Thank you.